The story of the 2008 housing crisis is one of optimism turned to calamity, of dreams built on shaky ground, and of an economic collapse that sent shockwaves through every corner of society. To grasp how the world changed, we first have to rewind to the years before the crash, a time when the American dream of homeownership seemed within reach for almost everyone. Throughout the late 1990s and early 2000s, the U.S. housing market was booming. Interest rates dropped to historic lows, making borrowing cheaper than ever before. The logic was simple. With lower monthly payments, more people could afford to buy homes. Banks and lenders, eager to cash in on the surging demand, began to relax their standards. Soon, not just the financially secure, but also those with poor credit, inconsistent employment, or high debts were being handed the keys to new homes. This is where the concept of subprime mortgages comes into play. Lenders offered enticing deals, no documentation required, adjustable rates that started low, and minimal down payments. The assumption was that rising home values would cover any risks. If someone defaulted, the house could simply be sold for a profit. These so-called ninja loans, no income, no job, no assets, became notorious for their lack of oversight. But the real twist in the story was what happened behind the scenes, on Wall Street. Banks didn't want to sit on these risky loans. Instead, they bundled thousands of mortgages together into packages known as mortgage-backed securities. The idea was that by spreading the risk across many loans, they could create a product that was supposedly safe, even if some homeowners defaulted. Credit rating agencies, whose job it was to assess the safety of these securities, often assigned them top marks. With high ratings, these mortgage-backed securities were sold to investors around the world, pension funds, insurance companies, and foreign banks. But the reality was darker. Many of these securities were packed with risky subprime loans. Layered on top of this were derivatives called credit default swaps, essentially bets on whether homeowners would pay their mortgages. These instruments amplified risk and complexity, and they were traded in a largely unregulated market. As the mid-2000s arrived, cracks began to appear. Interest rates started to rise, and those adjustable-rate mortgages reset to much higher payments. Suddenly, millions of homeowners discovered they could no longer afford their mortgages. With home prices flattening and then falling, many couldn't even sell their homes to escape their debts. Foreclosures swept across the country, flooding the market with distressed properties and driving prices down even further. The domino effect was swift and unforgiving. The securities that banks and investors thought were safe turned out to be anything but. Financial giants holding billions of dollars in these assets faced catastrophic losses. The collapse reached a climax with the bankruptcy of Lehman Brothers in September 2008, a moment that sent global markets into panic. Credit markets froze, businesses couldn't borrow, and the economy spiraled into the worst recession since the Great Depression. Unemployment soared, millions lost their homes, and faith in the financial system was deeply shaken. The aftermath brought hard lessons. Regulators and lawmakers enacted reforms to rein in risky lending and bring more transparency to financial markets. The Dodd-Frank Act imposed stricter rules on banks and aimed to protect consumers from predatory practices. For investors and homeowners today, the lessons of 2008 are crystal clear. Always scrutinize the risks, never assume markets only move upward, and recognize that unchecked optimism can be as dangerous as fear. Understand your debts, diversify your investments, and prepare for the unexpected. The housing crisis was a profound turning point, a reminder that financial systems are built on trust, and that when that trust is broken, the consequences can be felt by everyone. By studying what happened, we arm ourselves with the wisdom to build a more resilient and responsible future.